So it's currently around 2 a.m. as I'm writing the script, and honestly, I just want to talk about Helluva Boss, or mostly Stolas. Stolas has been my favorite character for a while, but not on like a person level, more so on the design of the character himself and how I just think that his over-the-top sexual energy is funny.
I want you to me with your in. Get it all the way. Get it all the way through me, you.
However, after watching Season 2, Episode 1 of Helluva Boss, a lot of light gets shown on who Stolas is as a person, and how every single part of who he is and how he portrays himself to IMP has more layers than just horny bird boy wanting blitz dick. Warning, there are spoilers ahead, so if you don't want to be spoiled, fuck you, why are you watching this? Before we talk about the latest episode, I want to talk about Stolas first, and bring together the pieces that make up this character. We're going to make a list of things that define the character throughout the first season, and then we're going to break each part down using all the information we learned in the circus. First off, Stolas is horny. Our very first glimpse at Stolas was in the pilot, where the only real scene we saw of him was... Dear God, this was uploaded 3 years ago? Stolas' first scene is him detailing everything he wants to do to Blitz, which was great material for my Grindr profile. It's sexual, it's vulgar, it's thirsty. From this scene, we see that Blitz is indifferent about Stolas and seems a little annoyed by him, but Stolas, on the other hand, wants to choke on that red of yours and lick all of your before taking out your yeah, you know what, you can watch the episode. Long story short, first impression, horny bird boy. Next, Stolas has a family, loves his daughter, hates his wife, every boomer's favorite plot device. While the first part becomes apparent very early on in the second episode, we don't really see a hatred or even negative feeling for Stella until much later on. The best we get is him explaining that he fucked Blitzo in their bed because he couldn't book a motel. Typically, at least narratively, when a couple has a spat about cheating, it usually has the guilty party saying something along the lines of, they made me feel special, or it was a moment of weakness. Not Stolas, he just tells her straight, I slept with him in our bed because there wasn't another place to do it. He's not sorry, he doesn't feel regret or malice towards Stella. In truth, this line reveals that Stolas feels nothing for Stella, at least right now. And likewise, she feels nothing for him, replying that he's an embarrassment for cheating on her with a lower class demon. She's not even mad that he cheated. She's just pissed that their status, and more importantly, her status, was brought into question. This is important. Keep it in mind for later. After, Stolas spends the entire episode making every effort to be there for his daughter and engage with her while also being a naughty horny bird boy, blah blah blah. Octavia means the world to Stolas and vice versa. She's terrified that Stolas is going to abandon her and leave her alone. Another thing to keep in mind for later. So yeah, second thing we know about Stolas, loves his daughter, hates, question mark? His wife. Okay, third, he's in love with Blitz. Yeah, I know, I'm skipping over the Harvest Moon Festival, and while that one has our great horny Al in it, it doesn't really show us anything more about Stolas other than obligations based on his position in the Goetia family. While his obligations are important for this video, that specific one isn't, so I'm leaving it out of the video. If that makes you mad, go make your own video. Make sure you watch and rewatch every episode multiple times and really take down those notes in your rebuttal against me. That'll show me. In fact, you'll really show me if you turn off your ad block while doing your research. And go check out their Patreon and donate to it so you can flaunt it in my face about how much of a bigger fan you are than me because you're supporting the project and I'm not, which makes my opinions irrelevant. Make sure you call me a bitch several times and threaten to spit in my mouth until I call you daddy. Once you've made your video, upload it and send it to me and I'll ignore it. But don't worry, I'll still call you daddy if you want. It'll be our little secret. Where was I? Oh yeah, he's in love with Blitz. This one really isn't that apparent until episode 6 and 7 part 1. At the time of recording this, part 2 isn't out yet, and yes, I want it, but harassing VizzyPop on Twitter didn't really get me anywhere, and she's blocked my account, so there's not much else I can do. But if you want to harass the genius in charge of one of the greatest animated adult shows out there, then go for it. But instead of sending her death threats on Twitter, throw money at her on Patreon and show even more support for the show. That'll show her. Fuck you, Vivzy, take our money. We are so smart. Okay, for real, back to the video. Episode 6 gives us a Stolas that isn't really trying to get into Blitz's pants for all of about 5 seconds. Stolas drops the act for a moment and lets us see that he genuinely cares for Blitz, that his safety is one of his top concerns, and also that getting caught and exposed would have major problems, yada yada yada. I don't know where this plotline is heading and I won't pretend to. I'll just wait for them to bring it up later as they force the characters to deal with the repercussions of their actions. It's probably important, but I'm not here to talk about the possible ramifications of demons being outed by a top secret badass government agency. I'm here to talk about Hell's most endearing bottom. In the following episode, Stolas is dying of thirst and watching telenovelas on his TV when he gets a call from Blitz asking him on a date. I'm not going to get into the details of the episode and how plot A leads to plot B, and I'm just going to give you the short and sweet of it. Stolas is excited to date Blitz, flaunts his power for his toy friend, and despite being presented with enough red flags to make soccer, football, feel inferior, he still tells Blitz that he enjoyed the date and invites him inside. Ignoring all the other possible implications that can be derived from these scenes and how they outline Blitz and Stolas' positions and hierarchy within Hell, we can at least derive from this that even though Stolas is given tons of clues that Blitz is using him, he still insists on being with him. So there you have it. Our list took 6 minutes to talk about. Stolas is horny, he has a family, and he's in love with Blitz. These are the core aspects of his character so far, and the Circus takes all 3 of these and explains them completely. The first bit of the episode shows little kid Stolas on his birthday being assigned his role in the Goetia family. He's excited because he gets to be a part of something, and he gets to see his dad. What's his name again? Payman? I had to Google it because it wasn't mentioned in the episode, and contrary to what I said earlier, I don't actually use Twitter, and I didn't see the reveal until after I saw the episode. I know, my harassment of Vivzy Pop was in all actuality a ruse. I did not send her death threats or insult her, and I am truly deeply sorry from the bottom of my heart for lying to you. I hope you can forgive me. From this, we can conclude one very important thing. Stolas is lonely. He has a whole mansion to himself and only himself. Nobody else lives here. Why do I say he lives alone? Well, because he does. Every single painting that we see in this scene is of Stolas, which is contrary to all the paintings that we will eventually see in the future. And Payman literally forgets Stolas' name because he has so many children. Another important bit for later. If multiple people lived here, we'd see a more diverse array of paintings featuring other members of the Goetia family. And even if Stolas and Payman were the only ones to live here, you would think Payman would know who he shares this house with. Even a neglectful father would at least be somewhat aware of the child he spends the most time around. But he isn't, leading me to conclude that the entire mansion is for Stolas and Stolas alone. Checkmate, viewer. Stolas has had nobody but himself for his whole life, aside from brief visits from his father and his butler, but Stolas doesn't really become a Batman ripoff, so honestly this butler is kind of an L. Bad butler. Later on, Stolas, Payman, and the bad Alfred go to the circus where Stolas sees and falls in love with Blitz. These versions of the characters are at their most raw. They are untouched by consequences of their actions or their surroundings. They're young and don't yet know the intricacies of adulthood and what that entails, and most importantly, they're children, so Stolas can't be horny yet. If you disagree, I completely understand, but first, why don't you take a seat over there as we discuss these messages to minors we pulled from your Discord. What Stolas wants the most at this point in his life is somebody to be friends with, and even though the dialogue of these scenes doesn't really hint much at infatuation, Stolas' facial expressions upon seeing Blitz are an immediate tell that he's interested in that specific imp. If it was about the splendor, his reaction would have been the same for Fizzarali, who is an objectively better clown, but don't worry, dear viewer, you'll always be my favorite clown. But it isn't. It's about Blitz. It's a crush at first sight. They spend the day together and have fun, blah blah blah. Fast forward to their first actual fuck. Don't worry, they're legal now. We can put away the Chris Hansen cutout, but I'm watching you, you sick freak. Blitz tries to break into Stolas' mansion and Stolas immediately recognizes him. Initially in the scene, Stolas does flirt with Blitz because once again he does have a crush on the guy, but it seems like playful banter as he's trying to really draw out the reason for why Blitz broke into his bedroom. This specific imp left an impact on Stolas even though they only really knew each other for a day, as far as we know. Stolas knows how long it's been, remembers that he was a clown, and even though he says he barely remembered Blitz's name, he corrects him when he says it but leaves out the O at the end. This was Stolas' first friend and first crush, and he's excited and curious about what Blitz is doing here. Blitz, on the other hand, is really only here for that book, and uses that playful flirting as a means of getting what he wants. He starts getting sexual and dominant, not because of roles or desire to make sweet fuck on the princely cloaca, but because he needs a distraction to grab that grimoire. Stolas is immediately taken aback by Blitz's advances. This has never happened before, and it's strange to him. Blitz gets more aggressive with this ruse and eventually tricks Stolas into actually believing everything that Blitz is doing, causing him to take on the subservient, thirsty role that Blitz has unknowingly pushed onto him. Number 1, Stolas is horny, because that's how Blitz likes him, at least according to Stolas. This episode shows Stolas in a more realistic light, showing him off as a person, and when his crush reciprocates those feelings, his first thoughts aren't mash my prostate into pudding daddy, they're oh fuck, what's happening? He panics. As it progresses though, his desire to have someone that genuinely likes him and wants to spend time with him overshadows overshadows his rational thinking, and he dives headfirst into what he believes to be a genuine relationship. Blitz wants to be in charge sexually, so Stolas will let him. This misconception will dictate the entire dialogue of their relationship. It's not that Stolas is overly sexual, it's that Stolas believes that if he's a total sub to Blitz, they can have a relationship. 2. Stolas has a family, a daughter he loves, and a wife he hates. In the very last scene of the circus, we get the truest moment between Stolas and Stella that we've seen thus far. All we've had so far is their argument about the affair and no other scene. In fact, there are no other scenes whatsoever outside of the Lululand episode that show both Stella and Stolas in the same vicinity. If you believe otherwise, please call me out in your video that I'm not going to watch. Thanks, Daddy. Stella seems hell-bent on torturing Stolas because of this slight against her, but Stolas doesn't really understand why. They never liked each other, were only contractually obligated to sire a precautionary addition to the Goetia family, which they have, and despite Stolas' best efforts, a loving bond between them never formed. So he kicks her out, finalizes his decision for a divorce, and reveals that he hates her. This is, on the surface, the least important thing to talk about, but trust me, it will come up later. 3. Stolas loves Blitzo. Yeah, we already kind of covered that actually. Okay. Theory time. What is going to happen next? Well, if you were paying attention at all, you would know, but since you decided to stare at my chest during the entire class, I guess I'll go over it one more time. But pay attention, this will be on the test. There have to be consequences. One of the biggest pieces of information we received in this episode is that members of the Goetia family are expected to sire an heir as a precaution. What this implies, I don't know, but I do know that despite Payman having so many kids he can't even keep track of their names, each of them are expected to have a kid. And since Stolas and Stella are getting a divorce, that means they will not be siring any more kids. So what about Octavia? She means the world to Stolas and seems to be the only person aside from Blitz that Stolas loves. So if she's the only child, that means she's going to be the one that has to get married off to continue the bloodline on Stolas' end. This potentially means that Payman will find a husband for Octavia, one she potentially won't like, and will force her to leave her parents and go live with this random guy. Stolas is going to have to leave Octavia because of his obligations. Stolas adheres to his obligations as a member of the Goetia family, as was represented by his attendance at the Harvest Moon Festival in the Wrath Ring. Ha! You believed me. You thought that I wasn't gonna bring that up. You're a fool. He has a job to do, and if that job is giving up Octavia to some other guy in a different ring of hell, he might have to do it. The only other alternative would be to have another kid with Stella, but could he do it? He already knows what it's like to be married off at a young age to someone he doesn't love, and he's already taken a different approach than his father to being a parent, so would it even be possible for him to do that to his own child? Even if he was willing to bite the bullet and create a loveless child purely for the sake of Octavia, would Stella even allow it? In the circus, she already says that now that they have a kid, she never has to fuck him again. On top of that, Stolas has completely burned that bridge. The only thing Stella cares about is her status. She doesn't care about Stolas, she doesn't care about Octavia. The only thing we see her have a positive disposition on is her status. All she cares about is people's perception of her and what that lets her do. She wants to be revered, be rich, have parties, not be seen as an embarrassment. Going back to the argument Stella and Stolas had in Lululand, Stella wasn't mad that Stolas cheated on her, she was mad that it was with an imp, the lowest class creature in hell. Keep in mind, these people are in hell. They are expected to be evil in some capacity. They are not meant to be good, they are meant to embody the pieces of humanity that are seen as evil. Infidelity doesn't seem like it would have been a major problem to Stella. It's the fact that it was with an imp that drives her insane. It wasn't an act of evil for the sake of evil, it was an act of disrespect and a slight on her name and status as a Goetia. In fact, I'm willing to bet that if Stolas had an affair with Asmodeus instead of Blitz, Stella wouldn't have minded. So with all this contempt for Stolas and an uncaring disposition for Octavia, it's highly doubtful she'd be willing to give another kid a go. So to recap, Stolas might have to abandon Octavia because of the rule that Goetias have to have kids. If Octavia is the only child of Stolas, then it's her obligation within the family to sire an heir. Stella won't be willing to give Stolas another shot at a kid, and that's assuming that Stolas would even be willing to do that to one of his children. Again, he's all too familiar with how much that sucks. So what's left for Stolas to do? Either try to have another kid to force the role onto, or send Octavia away. Of course, there is a chance chances Stolas will try to visit her if that happens, but given his newfound status as an imp fucker, would the family even want him to be around? Would Octavia's husband even let it happen? And on top of all this, Stolas is still in love with Blitz. He would have to give Blitz up if he were to be allowed another kid. Having affairs with imps is a big taboo for the royal family, so if his best bet to save Octavia is to have another kid, not only would he have to do to his child what Paimon did to him, but he'd also have to ditch Blitz, the only friend he's ever had. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, please leave a like, and if you didn't, please leave a dislike. The bar may have been removed, but don't worry, your vote counts. Just pretend the like button is a turd sandwich and the dislike button is a giant douche. And once you've cast your vote, you'll realize it doesn't matter, because I still won't call you daddy. For real though, please go show some support for Helluva Boss in any way you can. This show is so good and really deserves the attention. Also, please don't actually harass VivziePop on Twitter. I shouldn't have to spell this out for you, but there are some brainlets out there that really think that being assholes to the show creator is going to get them their episode faster, and honestly, part of me wants it to be canceled just to piss them off and fuck with them for being dicks, but then I remember I'm also a brainlet that likes this show and I don't want it to get canceled. Support the show, don't be an asshole, goodbye.